All right, listen up. This is a Code Ninja security advisory for January 2026. We are practicing coordinated vulnerability disclosure to give you the intelligence you need to act, and you need to act now. Let's get straight to it. So what's the situation? It's active. Right now, we're seeing a perfect storm of critical flaws. Remote code executions, supply chain poisonings, and trivially easy authentication bypasses. Proofs of concept are out there in the wild. If you haven't prepared, your infrastructure is squarely in the crosshairs. We're going to start in what we're calling the red zone. This covers active exploitation that's targeting a core infrastructure, and it's happening as we speak in late January 2026. Okay, first on the list is CVE 2026-2041-061. This is a massive oversight in Telnet deed from GNU Inetutils. Now, you might be thinking, Telnet, that's ancient, but it's still lurking in embedded systems and forgotten corners of corporate networks. And this flaw, it lets a remote attacker completely bypass authentication and get root access. And here's the truly frightening part. It's simplicity. This isn't some complex, multi-stage exploit chain. No, an attacker just passes this one argument, a single line, through the user environment variable. That's it. That trivial little injection is all it takes to own the system. This just goes to show you the immense danger of simple mistakes. The exploit is a piece of cake, but the impact is absolutely catastrophic, earning it a 9.8 critical on the CVSS scale. Do not underestimate this one just because it looks easy. And this threat doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's being compounded by another critical vulnerability. We're now looking at a brand new zero-day in Cisco enterprise gear that is way more dangerous than its initial score might suggest. So this one is CVE 2026-20045, and it's hitting the Cisco Unified Communications Manager. The official CVSS score is 8.2, which is, rated as high, but honestly, that number does not tell the whole story. Not even close. What you really need to understand is that Cisco themselves have elevated the security impact rating to critical. And why? Because a successful exploit chain allows an unauthenticated remote attacker to go from having zero access straight to root. And let's be clear, this is not a theoretical threat. This is a verified zero-day. It was so serious that CISA added it to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog the very same day it was disclosed. The attack comes in through crafted HTTP requests, and we can already see active network probing for this. You have to patch this immediately. Okay, so that's direct infrastructure attacks. Now we need to pivot and talk about the software supply chain. Because right now, the application layer is bleeding out, with critical vulnerabilities confirmed in JavaScript libraries and developer tools that are exposing production environments. Our first supply chain threat is CVE 2026-23745. It's a critical vulnerability in the node tar library, which is everywhere. We've nicknamed this the tar pit of doom because of its absolutely massive impact across the entire NPM ecosystem. So how does this attack actually work? It's a nasty trick called symlink poisoning. First, an attacker creates a malicious tar archive. Inside, they plant a symbolic link that doesn't point to a relative path, but to an absolute path on the file system. Think something critical like /etc/password. The vulnerable library just fails to sanitize this, and bam, it overwrites the target file. It turns a standard file extraction into a weaponized assault on your system. Now listen carefully. Your mitigation here is not just a simple upgrade. You have to force an upgrade of node tar to version 7.5.3 or later. And critically, you must also rebuild your project lock files. This is the only way to ensure all your subdependencies are actually using the patched version. Run your audits on this right away. Next up, we've got CVE 2026-23744, and this is a classic case of a tool designed for local development, MCJAM Inspector, making a fundamental configuration mistake and exposing a critical remote code execution vulnerability to the entire network. And here is the problem laid out plain and simple. The vulnerable versions listen on 0.0.0.0 by default. For those who don't know, that means it binds to all network interfaces, not just the local machine. An attacker on the same network can just send a simple HTTP request and get RCE. The patch thankfully does the right thing and changes this binding to 127.0.0.1, locking it down to localhost where it belongs. Okay, now we turn to our most insidious threat category. Persistence. We're calling this the zombie exploit because it's a threat that can come back to bite you even after you think you've killed it with a patch.
The vulnerability in question is CVE 2025-59718, an SSO bypass in Fortinet firewalls. Now, despite patches being available for a while, we are receiving credible reports from administrators that their patched firewalls are still being successfully compromised.
And here is exactly why. The myth is that applying the patch fixes the problem, case closed. But the reality is that the exploit continues to work perfectly fine on patched systems if one specific configuration, allowed administrative login using FortiCloud SSO, is still enabled. Patching is not a silver bullet here, not at all. So this leads to the one critical question you have to ask your teams right now. Have you actually audited your device configurations after you patched? Or are you just operating under a false sense of security, still completely exposed despite all your hard work? Based on all this intelligence, these are your non-negotiable directives. This is what you must execute right now. Your action plan is a simple 3-step process. 1. Isolate. Your Cisco and GNU endpoints absolutely must be patched or taken offline from the public internet immediately. 2. Audit. Scan every single one of your projects for vulnerable versions of node tar. 3. Harden. Disable FortiCloud SSO on your FortiGate firewalls, and I mean regardless of whether they are patched or not, until you can verify their integrity. Look, the reason we're issuing this advisory is to protect the community. The vendors have been notified, but you, the public, need to know this information now to stay safe. Execute your remediation protocols. And the final thought we want to leave you with is this. We're tracking new research showing how attackers are automating vulnerability discovery. As finding these flaws becomes faster and more automated for them, you have to ask yourself, how will you automate your defense to keep pace? Your security posture has to become more agile. Good hunting.